We progress through many, many lifetimes. There's different theories as to how many lifetimes we go through. I believe we go through approximately 1,000 lifetimes before we achieve liberation. And why do I think this? Because the center in the top of the head has 1,000 petals on it. And the petals of all of our various centers unfold. Each one of our centers has different amounts of petals on it. The center between the eyebrows has 96. Heart center has 12, I believe, and so on. And so as each one of these petals unfold, it unfolds a new type of energy. But the center at the top of the head is in vibration with all the other centers of your body. So when something is affected in one of your other centers, it affects one of the petals or one or more of the petals on the top of your head. And I believe that there's 1,000 petals on top of the head signifying 1,000 lifetimes. Now, it's not exactly 1,000 lifetimes, but in each lifetime we unfold a new type of energy and consciousness that we never had before. And when this happens, one of the petals at the top of your head unfolds, and you have a little bit of energy and substance added to your consciousness that you never had in all of your previous lifetimes. Now, sometimes if your life is cut short or if you really screw up, you may not get that petal completely stimulated. Or if you're really moving along and making a lot of progress, you might unfold 2 of them. So it's possible for somebody that's really aggressive in pursuing his consciousness to go less than 1,000 lifetimes. Others, like Curtis, it may take 2,000. He's on his 2001st, right?
I'm just lucky to be here.
I pick on my friends because they let me. So think of that, 1,000 lifetimes. Now, a lot of people think, well, we just have 12 lifetimes. To give evidence that there's 1,000 lifetimes, how many people here have been married? Raise your hand. Married and divorced. Okay. Now, your husband that you're with, did he grow at all the time you were with him? Yes or no?
A little bit.
A little bit. Okay. He grew a little bit. Now, when you look at where he was when you married him and where he was when you divorced him, did his consciousness, did he seem to overcome anything or improve much?
There was a phase, definitely. Yeah, there was.
Okay. But overall, if you've been married and divorced and you look at that guy, you're able to look at him objectively. Now, if you're madly in love, you can't be objective, But if you've been in and out of a relationship, or if you've been married to somebody for 30 years, you might think, well, he hasn't really moved that much. When I married him, he watched football, drank beer. He still watches football, drinks beer, and that's about all he does. And this is kind of the way it goes. When you look at yourself, it's different. You cannot see yourself objectively. You can see the other guy fairly objectively. And in a relationship, the big complaint that many people have about their partner in a relationship is, the guy just doesn't seem to be moving. He doesn't. And in this way, we can see that really real progress is really pretty slow. You actually learn about one thing in each life. Now, it appears that you learn more than one thing because we learn all kinds of facts. We learn what the capital of Minnesota is and who is president in 1812 or whatever. But that doesn't mean you're making progress. That's just filling your computer mind full of memory. That's not progress. Progress is where you really develop a greater skill that moves you ahead in your spiritual evolution. Yes?
In my experience with my husband, it seemed that parts of him that were stuck were a catalyst for assisting me to move forward. It made me work harder to be more and to develop,
That's often the
it's
case.
like the mirror was incredible.
Yes, that's one of the best parts about relationship. You can be in a relationship with a person that's stuck, and you can think, well, I don't want to be this way. This is teaching me what not to do. Or it may produce growth in you by trying to help the other person, even though he's beyond help. It may still help you. So in each life, you're given just one thing to learn. The Buddhists teach this also. They say before a teacher can go out and teach Buddhism, he has to get rid of that one thing, and get out of the way and get it learned and get it behind him, and then he can go out and be a teacher. That's one of the philosophies that they go by, which I believe to be true, that in each life there's basically one basic thing that's new that you have to learn. Now in our lives we relearn a lot of the old things. We actually get to our basic intelligence at the age of 21. The basic intelligence where we left off in our past lives. All the accumulated wisdom and intelligence manifests in the average person when he's about the age of 21. Now you go back and look at how you seem to evolve between when you first got consciousness and the age of 21. It seemed like every year you're almost a reborn person. You're moving ahead, you develop new skills, new abilities, new sensations. And then at the age of 21, from that age on, you got one thing to learn. And it's important that you learn what that lesson is. I was really dense about my lesson. It was very difficult for me, and it's difficult for everybody, because that new lesson is something that you're not good at. Let's say you're really good at music. You sit down at the piano, you learn to play it just really easy. You can play by ear. You say, man, I'm going to be a musician. But that's probably not what you're supposed to learn, because that's easy. Where you enter new territory is very difficult, very hard, and you don't want to do it. So when you look at your life, look at where your life has led you again and again where you didn't want to go, and that's what you're supposed to learn. Now, if you don't learn that one thing, then you got to come back and do it all over again until you finally learn that one thing you're supposed to learn. And believe me, it is difficult for us to accept. It may be in the field of relationships, it may be some type of job skill, it may be some type of common sense you're supposed to develop in a certain area, it may be some type of skill, it may be some type of profession. But whatever it is, you don't want to do it. You don't want to do it. Why? Because you're not good at it. But you're not good at anything you don't know. Now, there's a lot of things we know internally, and those things we know internally we are good at, and we want to do, because we're good at them, and we feel it feels natural. But the new skill that you're supposed to learn in this lifetime, you're not good at. So, when it's supposed to dawn on you, the skill, is at the end of your first Saturn cycle, which is around the age of 28, 29. Look back at those of you who are over 28. I think a third of you are that old at least. Joking.
Not one of your best talents.
Yeah, right. So around the age of 28, 29, look back on that age and say, was there some turning point in my life where I kind of started to learn a major lesson? One of the things that you can look at to really help you this way is look at your rising sign on your astrology chart. How many here have had astrology charts done before? Okay. How many know they're a rising sign? What's your rising sign? Libra. What? Libra, okay. Okay, that shows that the lesson that you're going to learn will be around balance. It'll also be Libra as a mental sign, air sign, so that it will be around developing something in your mental development. Okay? Now, this is really hard for people into philosophy and New Ageism, because a lot of them stay away from mind, you know. But it's important that you get grounded in common sense and balancing off things, weighing one thing against another, and learning good judgment. Okay, that will be. And have you found that when you look back when you were around 28, that this was something that was kind of forced upon you?
I think so.
Yeah. Okay. She says she thinks so. So, yeah, when you look back about the what's in your rising sign, you'll find that there's a lesson there that you probably learned around the age of 28 or 29, somewhere around there.
So I know mine.
You're right. What's your rising sign? Scorpio. Okay.
I have Sag.
What you have to learn is acceptance of things you have no control over. In other words, especially around the age of 28, you know, if you look back around 28, it begins to dawn on you. I mean, it happens before then, but it kind of reaches a crescendo, usually around the age of 28, 29, where things come down on you where you think, this is not working. What's the matter? You know, or why God? You look up at the heavens and ask that question. But throughout your life, have you had a lot of things happen to you that was beyond your control? That it just produced feelings in you that you didn't know how to handle? Right. And so what you have to do is learn to accept that which is outside of your control. Because we don't have control over everything. And Scorpio is often associated with death, and the reason it is because when somebody close to you dies, you have no control about how you feel about it. You're going to feel something no matter how hard you are, or no matter how self-controlled you are, if your spouse or you have a loved one dies. You're going to have feelings, whether you like it or not. Now, the feelings you have, what the lesson of Scorpio is, when these feelings arrive, you just accept them. So this is the way I feel. I'm feeling this way. Now, if you try to deny it and say, well, I'm above these feelings because I'm enlightened. My mother died, and she's just off in a better place, and I feel good about it. Okay? No, you may not feel good about it. You may feel terrible about it. You accept the way that you feel. And this is what Midge has to learn. If she's in a business, and in business you have all kinds of problems, you accept the problems. You said, well, this is just part of doing business. I mean, if you just pound on the table and say, that son of a gun, he screwed me and didn't pay me or whatever, that doesn't do anything. You need to accept, be in whatever you're in, whether it be business or relationship, that just certain things are going to come along over which you have no control, but you do have control over one thing. You have control over accepting the situation that it's just part of life. And that's around Midge's lesson. Now you've got, in the process of the 1,000 lives, we go through the signs quite a number of times. So we have a number of lessons in Scorpio. She'll have one lesson in Scorpio now. 12 lifetimes later, she'll have another lesson in Scorpio to learn. And so in each one of the signs, there's quite a number of different lessons to learn. But then we begin to unfold all of these energy centers in the top of the head. There's 1,000 altogether. And one by one, each lifetime, we unfold a new energy. And within that lifetime, our various other centers are also unfolding. And sometimes a major center will unfold, like in the heart, for instance, which is very closely connected with the Christ energy. And when one of those petals in the heart unfold, it produces an inflow of energy into us that we don't know how to handle because we never felt this before. Has anyone ever felt that in their life, that just you kind of live in life like normal, and then you feel an energy circulating around you or within you that you have never felt before? Has anyone ever felt that? Yeah. Okay, tell me what yours was like.
It was when I was first getting into some of the Reiki that I was doing, and I started feeling like I just loved everybody I was around. I was like, I was just falling in love with everybody. And I didn't understand what was happening, and I would hug people, and I'd have this kind of a different experience during these hugs. And I'm like, people, yeah. No, it was like you weren't even staying in the body anymore. In the hug, and people didn't know how to take it. It's like you get back off and they're like spinning still, and you're going, what the hell was that? You know, it's like, I'm sorry. And anyway, it was just profound in the beginning, especially, and then over time it was like, okay,
Yeah, so you got 12 petals around your heart center. You know, the average person may have 1 or 2 of them unfolded. The more advanced person has 9, 10, 11 unfolded. So wherever you're at, you probably had one of the petals in the heart center unfold. And when that unfolded, what it does, you have 6 of them connected with the pure love energy and 6 of them connected with higher reason and wisdom. That's why the heart center is called the love wisdom center, because part of the petals are connected with wisdom and part of them with the love energy itself. So it sounds like you had one of the love energy petals begin to unfold in you. Now when you have any of them unfold, like in your throat center is your creative center. If all of a sudden you have the bug to write or to create music or something like this, to be creative, it's probably because one of the centers in your throat center began to unfold and was sending additional energy into you, and you all of a sudden feel, man, I gotta do something creative. I gotta paint, or I have to write, or play music, or get a band going, or something. I mean, that's the way the person will feel when these energies begin to unfold. Now, when they begin to unfold, these are new energies, and they're difficult to deal with at first, because at first the person sometimes wonder if something's wrong with him, because maybe he hasn't felt this before. He thinks he may be getting ill or something. Yeah, it can be. Now, if he accepts the energy and goes with it, he will grow and his health will be good and his vitality will be good. But if he rejects the energy, then this produces ill health. And this is one of the greatest causes of ill health in everyone, is there's always a new energy unfolding in us. And it's foreign to us. So the natural inclination at first is to reject it. And if it's a major energy, it may take us 3 or 4 lifetimes to adapt to it. If it's a minor energy, it'll be easier to adapt to. But if it's a major one, it may take several lifetimes to adapt to us, and it may lead us along paths that we don't want to go. It may lead us to develop skills that we don't think we're good at. Let's say, they say the most terrifying thing to do is what I'm doing right now is public speaking. I remember the first time I ever had to give a speech is the most terrifying thing I've done in my life. I don't remember ever being that terrified in my entire life. But now it's pretty easy. But the first time I did it, I was just terrified beyond anything I could say, you know. And they say if a person hasn't given a speech before, it's the most terrifying thing he could do. Let's say your soul is leading you in that direction to give public speeches. You know, you may think, I'm not good at it. I can't speak. I'm boring. I don't know much about anything. And all of a sudden, your soul is pushing you that direction. Okay. If you resist, if you go for it, you'll experience tremendous growth. If you don't go for it, then your soul doesn't let up on you. It continues putting the screws to you, and it will make your life very discomforting until you go along with it. And this is the way it works. And it's like it squeezes you tighter and tighter and tighter until you finally say, Uncle, okay, I'll do it. And this is the way it is. You think back on your life. Think back of the greatest lessons you learned and how you resisted. You resisted, things got worse and worse, and then finally you gave in and you learned the lesson, and now you're good at it. Now you love that thing that you learned. But first of all, you hated it. Can people identify that statement at all? Okay, when you reflect back, if you've learned your lesson. Now, if you haven't learned your lesson, you reflect back and say, no, that doesn't apply to me. I can't think of that means you probably have to come back the next life and live this life pretty much all over again. That's what, yeah, that's one of the biggest complaints about reincarnation among normal Christians I talk to. They say, well, man, I don't want to come live this life over again. I mean, this has been a tough life. I just want to go live with Jesus now. And so a lot of people say that, man, I don't. Well, actually, if we've learned our lesson, we don't have to live this life, or we move on and live a better life or something more interesting than even we have now. But if we don't learn our lesson, yeah, then we got to come back, not the exact life over again, but this life over again, but harder. It's going to be harder the next time, because the soul that governs you will say, well, he didn't learn it with the situation I put him in last time, so I got to put him in a tougher situation this time. So what we do with our various lifetimes, as we begin our progression, we go through kind of like trial and error. Because it's trial and error, we don't really progress very fast. It's very slow until we reach the point of what this whole class is about tonight, the birth of the Christ within. Until we reach that point where the birth of the Christ within begins. When that begins, then it's kind of like a parabolic curve. We can hardly see any progression at all, visualize it like a graph, and then all of a sudden we reach the point where the Christ within is born, and then it goes up very dramatically. And a large percentage of our lifetimes is spent in this trial and error period. And progression is very slow. If you meet that certain irritating person in your life, you'll find, watching him, his progression, or hers, is extremely slow. You can be friends with him or associated with him, or maybe it's your boss or whatever. Your boss is probably a good one. Is that he's the same now as he was 10, 5, 20 years ago, it seems like. It seems like the guy's just not moving at all. But it seems like you're progressing okay. You're doing fine. But on the other hand, somebody looks at you, they may think, boy, he's not progressing so well. But we progress along through trial and error. And as we progress along through this trial and error for hundreds of lifetimes, we finally reach a point where we think, it's got to be a better way than this, you know. You feel tired within yourself, and you don't know why you're so tired, because you don't remember all those hundreds of lifetimes you've been spinning your wheels. But this tiredness is just built within you. And you sensed that there's got to be something better than this. And you have this sense that there's got to be something better than this. And when this occurs, then at this moment, a new energy begins to stir within you. If your soul sees that you're ready, it will begin to open your heart center up. And one of the petals in your heart center will begin to unfold, and this is the beginning of the birth of the Christ within you. You'll feel a new energy come into your life. Now there's a false birth, and this is the solar plexus. Solar plexus center is down here. And when people talk about heart energies, a lot of them are really identifying with the solar plexus, which is the lower emotional self. There's a big difference between the lower emotional energies and the higher heart energies. The lower emotional energies is the more possessiveness. It has a possessiveness behind it. If this person is centered on these energies and he says, I love you, what he really means is, I want to possess you. I want to own you. I want to manage you. I want you to make me happy. That's what he means when he says, I love you, from the solar plexus. What's the difference when the person says, I love you, from the heart center? when the birth of the Christ within him is happening to him.
Unconditional love.
Okay. And how's that different than the regular love?
Still free to be yourself.
Exactly. You would love the person no matter what their actions or reactions were.
Okay. And it goes a little beyond that in the fact, what was the keynote of Christ when he was here? How did he manifest the love different than other people did?
Without judgment. I heard that one.
Okay. But he said one thing. He identified how his love was different.
Give his life for his friends.
And he did this with a ceremony he did when he washed the apostles' feet. Does anyone remember that? And he started washing the apostles' feet. And he came to Peter, and he started washing Peter's feet. And Peter says, "You're not going to wash my feet. I'll wash your feet instead." He says, "You're, I'm to be your servant." And Jesus says, "If I can't wash your feet, then then you have nothing to do with me." And Peter says, "Well, wash my arms and chest and face. Well, wash my whole body." So yeah, Peter didn't want to let go of his master. So it was service. In other words, the higher love seeks to serve others. The lower love seeks to serve self. The lower love, when he says, "I love you," means I really want you in my life because I think you can do stuff for me. You know, you can be useful to me. You know, you can be my trophy wife or whatever. And I can show you off, and everybody think I'm successful. I'm a good-looking woman or a guy like you, or I think you're a good cook or whatever. You know, you can serve me. But the higher love says, I want to serve this person. I want to make this person happy. You know, and that is the interesting difference. And that was what he tried to teach the apostles when he sought to wash their feet. And Peter thought, no. He didn't understand it. He thought, well, Jesus is higher than me, so I should be serving him. And Jesus told him, that's the other way around. In the kingdom of my Father, he who is greatest is he who is the greatest servant. He says, in this world, he who is greatest is like Caesar, who gets the most people to serve him. But that's not the way it is in the kingdom of heaven. In the kingdom of heaven, the one who is greatest is the one with the greatest power to serve.
Thanks for listening to the New Age Christian Synthesis podcast. If you found that what you heard rang true for you, or you are interested in finding out more, please visit J.J. Dewey's website at freeread.com.